That's my take. But I do, before I say anything, I have to thank this group. I have to thank everybody, because it was your, leadership and your drive and the input from everybody here that has motivated myself and the team. And, as far as coaching us is amazing, because I was on a call yesterday with some school owners that were interested in what I was doing. So I had a little Zoom with about 6 different school owners, and they were scared and lost. And I was sharing with them what I'm doing as far as reopening. This is my idea. This is how we're going to go about it, blah, blah, blah. And they all thought I was crazy. And they're scared they're literally are scared to death. And they were blown away at the fact that we even signed people up.
Right.
They were,
right.
when I dropped that bomb, I said, no, we're students are trickling in, nothing great, but we're plugging a couple of holes here and there. And I told them the numbers that, we're off by about 10, 12%. They were just like, their mouths were hanging on the floor. They go, you did what? And I said, yeah, no, we were signing people up for virtual. She goes, oh, well, what's that, a 2-week program? I said, no, I said, they're 12-month programs. And they couldn't wrap their head around that. So I have to, thank everybody. Master Oliver, Master Moody, Master Smith. Thank you. Sincerely.
That's really great feedback. We appreciate that, man. And, and I think the word you used is leadership, and that's what Master Oliver's used that
Absolutely.
term all now.
Absolutely. Because I know if it wasn't for you guys, I'd probably be a little lost too. I'd probably be a little uncertain and fearful, as long as I've been doing this. But I think it was it was obviously your leadership. It was your positivity, putting a good face on a bad situation, and let's press forward and be the warriors that we tell everybody that we are, doing it business wise. And that's what blew my mind yesterday. So I got like 6 or 8 people, and they're looking at me, and they, what do you mean you're opening? I said, well, listen, if someone tells me to close, I'll close. I said, but for now, and I used your line, I'd rather ask for forgiveness than beg for permission. And they still kind of looked at me like I was this moron. And then when I told them that I signed people up, and I said, yeah, we did like 6 programs last month. And I think we did maybe another 4 or 5 right now. And we had a paid in full. Somebody paid us close to $5,000. They couldn't believe it, 1, and 2, they were just, but I felt bad for them because they weren't, I guess they weren't getting it. And the worst part of it was they brought some of their employees on the call to listen. And then after the call was over, their employees were texting me and my guys, and they were saying, wish you were doing what you guys are doing. My owner doesn't get this. He's not understanding this. And then the other thing was, they actually used the word leadership. We're not getting any leadership in our schools. So I attribute that to you 3 gentlemen and the rest of the group. Thank you.
It's not just small schools like that, Paul. I got a call this morning, Master Oliver, and he wanted to set up a 3-way with you next week, Danny Schulman.
A 3-way call. Let's,
I think we all assume that, sir. I don't
want to confuse
my mind didn't go there.
I don't want to confuse anything with your other stuff. Okay?
Oh, sure.
He was asking me, he's calling to ask me about software, right? And I said, software?
He asked you about software?
We need, I want to know what you guys are using on software. And I said, I don't know about you, Danny, but I think that you might have bigger fish to fry. I said, how's your schools doing? Oh, they're doing pretty good. We've probably retained about 50% of them. And, in New Jersey is different than everywhere else. Nobody can come into the school. Is different, right? I said,
right.
Yeah. He goes, but I said, what are you doing for marketing, or how's your intro enrollment traffic, or did you get any renewals? How's your retention? And then he got real confused. He goes, well, are you doing intros? And I said, yeah. He said, well, we wanted to kind of make sure that our guys, are y'all doing Zoom?
That's,
I said, yeah. He said, yeah, we just started using Zoom.
Oh God.
The other systems weren't working, and we were trying to get everything working right before we started marketing and getting more intros, because we didn't want to have it messed up. And I said, yeah, well, that was kind of us 3 months ago.
Right.
It took us about a week to get everybody to understand what they should be doing. And but I tell you, it doesn't take 3 months. I said, Danny, you're going to be flatlining, and
that was the trend with the school owners when I spoke to yesterday. The ones that told, and it was weird, because in the same breath they said we're down 50%.
That's
and then they said they're down 50%, and then they all said the same thing. They said, "Oh, well, we're just trying to maintain what we got. We're not even thinking about new students." And I said, "Yeah." I get that. I said, but you're going to be doing this for a little while. I go, this is, you got to get used to this. And then, then I sang the praises of the group, and I said, listen, I go, we have people all throughout the nation. I said, they're all in the same boat. So if it's California, Tennessee, Jersey, New York, I said, more or less, we're all doing the same thing. I go, so you got to get good at the Zoom, and you got to get good at talking to people. But I was blown away the fact that they were down 50%, but they didn't want to try anything.
Yeah. Well,
Look, I just want to say the leadership is what you guys are doing too. So you're praising us about leadership, which we appreciate, and I think that's accurate. But that's what you're doing downstream with your students. And Master Oliver's been telling everybody, if you show leadership downstream to your students to get them back in and tell them you need to come back in, and you're showing leadership with your staff to tell them sign the damn people up, do this stuff. That's what those other guys aren't doing. I think that encompasses the whole thing. Master Oliver, you've been saying that, and I think that's something to reinforce.
Well, we need a real schism just among our membership, among our members, on who really has good rapport and a strong leadership role with their students, and who's just kind of blowing with the wind, right? And it's dramatic. Those who really have a good relationship, and I think that's everybody on the meeting here, but who have a really good relationship with their students, who are regularly exercising leadership and guidance and really focusing on that, they're not having a problem with their student body. They're having, people are excited and motivated, and just Paul, as you've posted about 9,000 of them, it seems like, they're singing their praises. But if you're just kind of like trying to do whatever somebody says they want, we provide that for them, and not really in a leadership role, I won't name names, but you can go through 4 or 5 of our members who it just became obvious that the students were running them around rather than they were really having that level of respect and rapport and relationship with them.
And I used your line, Master Oliver. I said, when they used that excuse, they said, well, we had about 30% of our members, parents lost their jobs. And then he was trying to justify what he was doing. He said, but, we got the rent abated. We're good on that. They're putting in for some loans. And I said, yeah, our guys are doing that too. I said, but why would we not want to get the gross up and maintain our active count and get new students? Because you're either green and growing or ripe and rotting. I said, but I said, if you don't think, they didn't think intros would do it, right? No, that nobody's going to want to get started on this. We do a lot of jujitsu, not just the Muay Thai. And I said, we've got Muay Thai, we've got jujitsu, they're doing the same thing. And he goes, well, and I said, it's in your mind, your instructor's mind. It's not in your student's mind until you put it there. Right. It's whatever's in their mind doesn't matter as long as you come across as this is what we need to do and this is why we need to do it. And now they buy into that because it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Paul, I think, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. The other Paul.
The other, I can tell you guys, I came late to the party, right? So, but I've only been back with you guys for about a month now. And already we have a wish list for the whole rest of the year of things that we want to accomplish. We've already enrolled 3 people virtually, and we've got all our classes on Zoom and have all of our folks working on getting people back on the rolls, so plus our daycare is going to open up on Monday, the 8th.
Oh, good.
And we've got 60% of the people coming back the first week. By the 4th week, we've got 90% already. So
Excellent. Excellent.
So thank you guys. What Paul said there is true. Just getting a little bit of perspective from you guys has been very helpful.
Just he knows we're going to pull this recording right away and use it everywhere we possibly use it. Right. Just to let you know. Paul, you're welcome to continue singing our praises.
I just have, what it is, I had to get that off my chest because it happened the other day and I hung up the meeting, and again, not to keep, I don't want to kill all your time with it, but it was my guys that empowered my staff.
Yeah.
They were in another room on their Zoom. I'm over here, and if anything they took away from it, it was they were empowered. They were pumping their chests and they were standing up straighter, and they were like, "Holy shit, Master Paul! These guys they're not. Why aren't they doing these things? How come they're acting that way?" Yeah. And
and that's why we tried to open up, as you know, we did so many free webinars and videos, and we probably
I had some of the guys come to them.
Yeah. It still didn't do anything.
Yeah, it's in their mind. I mean, in their mind, they think this way, and until they can change their mind, they're not going to change anybody else's mind.
Yeah. But we've probably talked to, I mean, when I say we, mostly Bob, but I don't know, 150 school owners in the last couple of months. And
the free webinars that you did just to tell them that, look, no obligation here, guys. We just want to give you some, bits of information to help you through the pandemic.
But what I was going to say is that they're mostly down between 50 and 80%.
Yeah.
And I don't even think they realize it. If you go from 400 students to 70 students, and then you reopen, those 330 aren't flocking back, right? I mean, we already know just in normal times how difficult it is if somebody is faded, and when they're gone 2 weeks, they're gone 3 weeks, they're out of the habit, much less they're gone 3 months. And I know this is anomalous in some ways, but once people break the habit, you're in bad shape. So the failure rate's going to be astronomical on.
Well, it's not anomalous though in terms of leaving. I think it's worse. If somebody leaves for 2 weeks normally, it's easier to get them back than if they've gone for 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
This distraction is worse than the normal distractions people had. I think this is harder to get. If somebody's gone, what your example was, is if they move from 400 students to 70 students, that's a big jump. But for one student that leaves during this time, their life is typically a lot more affected by whatever the crap was they had before. The crap before was they went on vacation for 2 weeks. This is a lot more significant, and so to get attendance work has to be a lot. To get people back in has to be a lot more significant, which is what all of us have been preaching, to keep people attending and keep people going. So I think it's even more of a big deal that when they turn the lights back on, or when they flip the switch to open up, when they think it's going to happen, they're going to have even harder time getting students back in than what they did before for every single individual student.
Well, so, behind the scenes, the four of us, that's what the conversations were. If we can just get everybody through now till May 15th with their student body intact, that'll be a tremendous accomplishment, right? And that's why it was sequential that way. It was, let's start with, we don't lose anybody. And then we'll go to, what are the marketing opportunities and how do we do enrollments virtually? And by the way, all the renewals that need to be done, we still need to do them. And if you have a cash deficit, you always fix the cash deficit with a renewal blitz, right? On that note, I'm going to ask for some help here. Is we still have, what would you say, Master Smith, 10 or 12 members who just, when we say it, they don't get it, and they're not hearing it from a standpoint of thinking that they can't get enrollments done virtually, or that they can't get people in or renewals. I was going to ask Amanda and Rachel if you're actually there. Nice picture, but I don't know if there's a human being online there or not.
Rachel's been sick, so she's still listening in, but she's sounding a little under the weather.
Okay. But Amanda, I was going to see if I could get you, like we did the curriculum sessions a couple weeks ago, if I could get you to do a session without us on here's how you get enrollments virtually and here's how you market virtually. You know, maybe if I say it, Master Moody says it, and Master Smith says it, they don't hear. But if you say it from relatively small town Tennessee, maybe they'll hear it. I was going to see if you'd be willing to do that, and two, if maybe next Wednesday might work for you.
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to do that. And, you know, I'm just kind of having the same experience Paul's been having with talking to other schools. And it's just like beating a dead horse or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oliver, maybe so I'd suggest, can we give her some support? Maybe Paul or Tim or somebody else might be able to kind of buddy up, or Matt.
Yeah, or she could just recruit her son, who's very articulate and good looking himself. And,
I think
I was thinking I would, you know,
it's good to help. It's good to have more than one. So, you know, even if Matt and Paul, you know, are available for that period of time.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you do to help.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, sometimes they can relate and they'll say, well, yeah, that's just one person. But now if they hear it, bam, bam, bam.
Well, and okay, so the next question is, would next Wednesday, either Monday or Wednesday at, you're on Eastern time, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So you're east of Knoxville. Knoxville is on Eastern. That's how I remember.
Okay.
I just found it humorous that when we drove from Nashville to Knoxville, you changed time zones. It seems like it should be. Yeah. It seems like it should be in the same state.
Not as bad as Master Moody's time zone.
Well, and
We're the only ones.
I'll object to that. I think they're the ones that are right. It's just the rest of the country doesn't cooperate with them.
But that's what I mean. It's just because they're different than the rest of the country, you can never figure out where they are.
Yeah, what is it? Arizona, Indiana, and Hawaii, I think, last I knew. But what would work better for you, Amanda? Preferably Monday or Wednesday next week.
What time?
At can you do noon Eastern?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think, we're reopening Monday, so Wednesday might be a little bit easier for me.
Perfect. Let's do Wednesday Eastern on our normal Thursday, our normal quick start line. In other words, not this link, but the other one.
Okay.
Okay. And then Rachel, are you actually there?
Yes, sir, I am.
641-803-1214.
Could Rachel, could you do a session on how to do renewals when you're not physically open?
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to.
Because you kind of led that field. We have you know three or four who did a good job getting started right away. I think it was Leo who did like 13 the first week or two that they were closed. But what would be a good day for you, Rachel? Let's say Monday or Friday next week.
Friday would probably be better.
Okay. So and then again on the normal quick start link, Bob, can you make a note of that and we'll let everybody know. Jeff, the 4 or 5 sacks that we've been stressed out talking to in the last 48 hours, we definitely need to get them on the line.
Yeah, and Amanda, the intros is when, sir? When is Amanda doing the intro? Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday noon Eastern.
Yeah. Both would be noon Eastern.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Friday noon Eastern.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, you know, contributes to, you posted a picture a while back, right, where when the wind stops blowing, it's time to row. And, you know, the economy has been so strong that everybody that's been operating the schools lately has kind of had the wind in their sails. And that wind stopped. And the people there's so many of them that are used to not actually having to work that hard to get new enrollments, where now it's the complete opposite side of the coin. You're having to bust your ass and do a lot more work than ever has been required to stay afloat.
And
And I think that's where, you know, our guys are shining where the others are.
Amanda, do you remember in Estes Park last fall when I said verbatim, you know, now I know that we have the best economy we've ever had, but you guys have all gotten lazy on your marketing. You've got to build out the marketing Parthenon. You got 3 or 4 things that are working really well, but you've gotten sloppy and inefficient on all this other stuff. You got to get all of that in place, because this isn't going to last forever. It's going to crash at some point. And then number 2 is, given this is as good as you get, you better be raking off a bunch of cash and putting it on the side, because whatever happens to implode the economy into, I didn't think it was going to be a black swan event with a virus, for God's sake, but
You had your crystal ball.
yeah, well, I mean, you know, it's been obvious for a year now, if you're paying attention, that that was as good as it gets. And you've got to be prepared for things not to be at the absolute peak as good as it gets. But what I might argue with you on Bob, is there's a lot of avenues right now that are just cranking. You know, so it's not like Facebook dried up. For God's sake, the ad rates went down and the engagement levels went up. It's not like host beneficiary, host parasite type of relationships got harder. They got easier. You know, working with elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, churches, youth groups, and all that got easier in this situation. What were you going to say, Matt?
I was just saying your Parthenon that you had already, you know, been preaching on was all.
You're unmuted, Matt.
Yeah. Matt was trying to get a word in edgewise. So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just talk, Matt, next time. Don't raise your hand.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, I mean, we're one of those who has slacked off on our Parthenon, but thank God for Facebook, because this week alone we have 40 intro ones.
Wow.
Awesome.
And I'd say 80% of those are over the past 6 days. And after the shellacking I got on Tuesday, I went and you know, shit flows downhill. So I took our conversation and then went and chatted with my staff, and immediately I'm now booked solid on enrollment conferences the rest of this week and the next week. So and I've enrolled 4 people in the past 2 days.
Awesome.
Good.
So again,
You're on Monday.
So there's some value.
To mirror Master Paul's sentiment, that's direct from you guys for that. So thank you.
And there's also some value in being honest about your numbers about it too, and keeping track of your numbers. But you know, I think some of our members, and not in this group actually, this group is really good about going, oh man, I suck at this number, you know, and you guys are good at doing that here in this group. I think that's a problem we have, you know, more in general is, you know, people hiding about their conversion rate instead of being honest about it. But appreciate that, Matt, that you took it for everybody kind of the other day, and hopefully everybody got to hear that and fix it on their own. But that can make a huge difference.
All that looking good in front of this group does for you is it keeps you from really analyzing your numbers and figuring out what the fix is. That's really all it does, and it's never productive whatsoever.
And the people that never give you their numbers, you know, that just sit back and don't participate in there, you know, then they're not getting the benefit of it. Now, granted, I'm sure the shellacking that Matt got was enough that even those that didn't get a shellacking got a shellacking.
Yeah, and I'm sure he was much more diplomatic. I'm sure he was much more diplomatic with his staff than
maybe.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Matt took one for the team.
Yeah.
No, my staff needed to hear at that level, because there's a little bit of a failure in leadership on my part, because I told them, hey, we need to do this, but I didn't follow up with them and hold them accountable for it.
Yeah.
And so when I went and chatted with them, I said, all right, guys, so this is on me for some of this, but at the same time, you knew you were supposed to do this. So there's no excuse. We're doing it starting now. And I got a little blowback, but I just looked at it and went, we don't have an option. This is what we have to do. And had immediate change. And what's cool about it is I can show them from that change. Now, I mean, yesterday we brought in $600 cash, which isn't much, but when you go a week and don't bring in any cash, that's significant.
Well, plus, you know, by all odds, you're going to have 20 enrollments in the next 7 days. I mean, that's significant. That, you know, that's worth $5-6 a piece. So there's $100,000 in business generated in the next 7 days. Not all of it cash up front, but I mean, that's a lot of business.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Could I bug you now or maybe a different time about
Go right ahead.
specifically what kind of Facebook ad it is that you ran? We've got a lot of money running on ads right now, but they're not getting results like that.
Yeah. Well, I might start with recommending the agency that we've been using. They're very good at follow up. I know I don't know how many people on the meeting here are using Elite Digital, but they're very, very good at that. Who's using Elite?
And our Elite, Drew, it went dead for about 2.5-3 weeks where we weren't getting much of anything. And then as we got close to Memorial Day, they changed up some ads, they did something different, and then it was the proverbial fire hose effect.
Yeah, yeah. Great. And to answer your question specifically, mostly it's a 2-week free uniform offer. Is that right? What's pulling for everybody? So Matt, is that what your offer is right now that was pulling like a fire hose?
Yes, just 2-week trial.
2-week free trial. Okay. But virtual. So a key is that the ad is tagged that this is virtual, or now when you're gradually reopening, you know, virtual and in person, you know, something like that. If you just run your normal ads, you know, my hypothesis is people are going to see that and go, oh, great. When things get back to normal, we'll remember to do that, right?
Well, we busted ass and actually produced a video. I posted it on the Facebook page. I don't know if anybody saw it, but we produced a video to try to give a vibe of what it's like to train virtually and sell it. And I was pretty optimistic about it being received better than, you know, a picture or something. And we're getting some traction on it, but it ain't like that. So
what is your budget on it right now?
I'm trying it for $1,000 right now to test it, and then we've got more money to dump into it once I tweak it.
Yeah. Well, you know, frankly, you know, with Elite, there's their fee for handling the things, and then there's the ad buy budget. I don't think anybody's spending more than $1,000 in actual ad buys with them. Yeah. And Matt, how many leads have you had in May? Do you know top of your head?
If you give me a minute, I can find out.
Yeah. Amanda, do you know your number? Paul, Tim?
We're probably at about 40 leads going into this month now. I'm unprepared, so I'm kind of guessing right now.
That's okay. And are those?
We've been a little slow on the leads. We're about 23, I think, is where we were.
I can send you what their actual results were for all the schools that they're working with for April and for, I think, through the first week in May. In fact, it's posted in the Facebook group going back 3 weeks or something like that.
I was 117 for April.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you guys know specifically the Facebook ad? Is the effect or the call to action of the ad to go to your website? Is it the lead form within the Facebook ad? What exactly format?
Landing page.
Yeah, it's taking them to a landing page.
Yep.
We're using lead pages. The format is with Elite Digital, because we've formed a solid working relationship with them. They're using our lead page account, or they can use your lead page account. But they're creating a landing page on lead pages. They're putting the lead into an app called Lead Out so that it gets there right away. But we're also having them formatted so that immediately upon the lead being received, it texts the program director name and phone number so they can initiate an outbound call, and kicks off a sequence to text and email the prospect. The main thing is, you know, and A/B split test more or less is landing page includes a calendar link to schedule a calendar appointment right then and there versus, you know, a drive to call and then trying to initiate an outbound call. The problem is, which you already know, but I'll just say it out loud, is that people don't answer their phone anymore if they're getting a call that they don't recognize. So an immediate, which by the way, we've got, you guys have to remind me, we got to get Elite Digital to put a VR card link on the landing page, because that can be done as well. We can do a, now I don't know what percentage will do it, but we can do a, here, add our contact information to your phone, because most of the people hitting the landing page are coming in on an iPhone or an Android anyway. But so that's one thing, is the importance is you get the lead in 12 seconds and initiate an outbound call, rather than what a lot of schools do is, you know, at 4 o'clock, somebody checks the email and starts trying to call people, right? So for like we've done studies where like 20 minutes later, the efficacy drops. Greg, what was the number, like 50% or something like that?
It's 42% of the, are you talking about go to the web page? So if you don't have it.
No, that's not what, if you don't initiate an outbound call to them immediately, but just
90%. Yeah, 90%. Well, yeah, with the live outbound call, the voice broadcast assists this, but the live outbound call, your appointment rates go down 90%.
Yeah, yeah. So,
yeah.
So
and
that's
we've got an automatic appointment maker on our landing page, so it lets people choose.
Yeah, but so an actual live person calling them outbound call is way higher priority than the appointment setting.
And,
I mean, you still do that.
Yeah, and what I would do is go back and replay Tuesday's meeting, because what Matt's talking about is we beat up mostly me, you know, verbally destroyed Matt on his numbers for his own benefit.
Don't put we in there.
Yeah. How you ever became the nice one is always going to be a mystery to me. We should get all the old Judy and Jeff Smith staff together someday and tell stories. I need to have that on tape for everybody who thinks that you're the nice guy.
Always one has to be the good cop, one has to be the bad cop. And I used to be the bad cop and you were the good cop, and then all of a sudden you wanted to be the bad cop for a change. So I automatically switched.
Yeah, I don't think my staff would ever assume that I was the good cop. But
no, now, I said before you used to be the bad
oh no,
cop.
now I'm the nice guy with the staff. It was the previous 30 years that were a little different. But going back to the question, not to get too distracted, is, as you know already, but getting Facebook to work is all about continuous A/B split testing. And then it's about continuously watching the cost per lead, you know, the number of clicks, but the cost per lead, and then modifying and adjusting the ad, right? And one of the things, just because of what we do, is when I started doing a lot of Facebook advertising, when it started actually starting to work, I did all the nuts and bolts myself for about 1.5 years before ever handing it off, because I wanted to know, how do I set up the retargeting? How do I create custom audiences? How do I, you know, target, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we've had several different agencies that, you know, we've kind of interviewed and that different people have used. And there was, I forget the other guy's name in Canada. There was another one.
North Edge?
North Edge, yeah. And they started out like gangbusters, and then it seemed like with almost everybody, they had a good 90-day run, and then it kind of, you know, died. And yeah. Well, I don't think it's that. I think it's that they were kind of a one-trick pony. And what has to happen is ads burn out on Facebook like really damn quickly, right? When I was advertising in, say, the Rocky Mountain News, Denver Post, including a full page and the TV guide and all this stuff, I could essentially run the same ad for 1 year, and it wasn't going to burn out no matter how much frequency I put out there, right? But with Facebook, it seems like you have a three-week window, sometimes less, and then it burns out. People, and what I mean by burn out, they just stop seeing it because they've seen it, right?
Yeah.
And then it goes down. So what has to happen is you have to be either personally paying attention to it every day and watching the A/B split test, putting new pictures, tweaking the offer, doing all that kind of stuff. And you need to be real conscientiously keeping track on a daily basis on what the cost per lead is. And then as that starts to taper, like Matt was saying, pull it and then put something new in and then start the process over, or have somebody else do it. And for everybody on the meeting, the cost that they have for doing it is far better than the 5 or 7 hours of personal time that it takes to get that as a medium to work, right? And you could ask your dad. I mean, 4 years ago I was saying don't mess with Facebook, it's a pain in the ass, it's not it's not getting any results. That hit an inflection point probably 3 or 4 years ago, and it started working, and right now it's working great. And I'm watching eagerly because I don't know if the politicians are going to kill it or not, right? Twitter just tried to commit suicide yesterday. If you haven't watched the news, well, yeah, but I mean, talk about raising your head and saying whack me. It was an exceedingly bad. I don't care if it's him or if it's Biden or if it's Pelosi or whoever. Raising their head and getting into the fray was a really bad idea, because if you're not familiar, Twitter, Facebook, all of the social media platforms basically are treated like the phone company. So the phone company isn't liable for a conversation that happens on their lines. They're providing a utility. But as soon as they get into editorial and start jumping into the conversation, that whole immunity to that goes away, right? Politicians on both sides are going to say, well, you're not acting like the phone company, or you're trying to pick sides. And if you're trying to pick sides, you need to be regulated differently. The Democrats are already pissed off that that Facebook helped Trump win the election. The conservatives are all pissed off at all the social media, because all the top guys running the social media are all liberals, right? So they're not going to be able to win, right? Because for whatever reason, both sides are pissed off at them. And so it'll be interesting to see if this maintains itself for a while, or if the politicians kill it. And the politicians have killed infomercials, they've killed outbound telemarketing, they've killed broadcast facts, they've killed a number of things over the years. So, don't ever think that any of the politicians are trying to help businesses grow. They're usually looking for ways to make it more difficult to earn a living.
And Master Oliver, the other thing that the members that are doing good on Facebook are doing is, and you've kind of tweaked them on doing these things, is to make sure that they're on top of their marketing for the Facebook, that they are, trying to call back, quickly within a minute or two, call back these leads, keep good stats, keep good communication with Kate and Elite Digital, because knowing what your numbers are, there was a lot of people that didn't even worry about the numbers. They just were worried about how much they were spending. But then when you started breaking it down for them and showing them how to find out if it's really worth what you're spending per lead, per enrollment, now it's a completely different ball game. And if you stay on top of it, you can really run with it.
Yeah, and as a general term, not to repeat what probably everybody already knows, if I got a new enrollment for $800, I'd be tickled to death. Especially if they're paying $500 or $600 a day they enroll. That way, within a month and a half, I'm at even, right? It's been very unusual with Elite Digital for anybody to be running more than $200 or $300 per enrollment. But what's also, I'm not sure I could even say unusual, is pretty much unheard of for social media, using it socially the way that people think, just posting videos and posting pictures and all of that, for it to do more than enhance referrals a little bit. So going out there and spending a lot of time on posts and and trying to be creative and tweeting and all that stuff, that's mostly a waste of time. And frankly, if I had my druthers, myself and Master Smith included, is if you just never ever looked at any social media ever again, and had an agency like Elite Digital handling Facebook advertising, you'd be way further ahead. We all keep posting stuff and doing all that stuff, thinking it, but the 1 hour a month doing it is really too much for the level of return you get.
Well, one thing that you should be doing though, sir, is on your website, if you have the podcast. I know some of the guys have a podcast page.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about SEO. I'm talking about social media.
Well, yeah, but those can get shared directly if they're done right. I mean, I know Amanda's got that, and some of the guys have those. Those with one click can get shared directly to your Facebook page. So that is a way to do the work, what you're talking about, without spending hours on it, And then if you're blogging properly, like you should be doing on a regular basis for SEO, you just copy that and then either have it automatically done or copy it and paste it onto your Facebook page. That doesn't take any extra time.
Right.
So then you're having reciprocal links between the different pieces. So that's the way to do it without doing what you're talking about, which is somebody sitting at their Facebook page for 6 hours. Like you and I like to avoid. Some other people that we know don't like to avoid Facebook, but
Jeff Smith.
Yeah, I didn't want to mention that, but we love Jeff Smith doing that because he responds to everything for us. But I don't particularly like going on Facebook very, very frequently. And that's what we don't recommend for you because it can be a really big time sink. But to do a podcast on a weekly basis and to do to turn that podcast into a blog so you don't do any extra work is really easy and something you should do. And then just dump that into your Facebook page. With the podcast function I'm talking about, like on my website, I just click a button and it automatically shoves it into your Facebook, whatever number of Facebook pages you have. Then that's really easy. It doesn't take any time at all. That's beneficial, and it ends up creating links between those pieces that helps you a lot.
Well, and you now we start getting into the conversation about SEO and all of that, which is very important. And there's two elements for search engine optimization and pay-per-click, as make this a separate topic. Is one is we know, and the stats are around 80%. Soccer, think about middle class, upper middle class moms who make most of the decision, clearly for daycare as well as for kids martial arts for sure. The mom who's making most of the decision, 80% of them are going to go Google you prior to coming in or prior to enrolling, right? So therefore your profile online is exceedingly important. Certainly to include tons of 150 5-star reviews on Google. Nothing out there that's inflammatory, and if there is something out there that's inflammatory and you can't prevent crazies from posting, that's so overwhelmed with good stuff that it dissipates, and having a wide presence. So if they go Google you, they find you everywhere. That wide presence also is to a great extent what helps your search engine optimization, right? So Master Media, you're talking about posting that stuff into Facebook, where you can use an app like say Hootsuite, and Hootsuite can syndicate it out everywhere. If you're not familiar, basically it can tweet it, it can LinkedIn, it can Blogger it can Snapchat it, it can put it everywhere, right? And the good thing is it can put it everywhere without you looking at any of those things other than queuing it up to go in Hootsuite. Plus, if you have a whole bunch of stuff stacked up, you can just program it. You can put somebody on programming it out for a week or two, and you don't have to look at it again for a week or two, and then you can program out some additional stuff. The important thing on the SEO is that Google likes content, but it likes recency, right? So if you put something out on the website 8 years ago, and versus you have something that published 24 hours ago, the stuff that was published 24 hours ago is going to push you up higher in the ratings and be found more quickly than the old material. And there's exceptions to that. If the old material has 10,000 incoming links, from educational institutions, for instance, that gives it more credibility. But basically, what you want to be doing is getting new content out all the time. And you want to have that new content not linked to your Facebook page, but linked to your website, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So even if you use Hootsuite, the links in there and what you put in there should have links back to your website. Don't think things should be centered around Facebook. That just increases Facebook's traffic. You want to increase traffic to your website.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people who seem to think, well, really a Facebook page is the new website, and I don't need a good website. No, that's totally wrong, right?
Completely wrong.
Yeah. It's you don't want to be in a walled garden ever, and then certainly Facebook is a walled garden.
Well, especially one that somebody else controls.
Yeah.
Although to some degree, Google's controlling what we do, because the algorithm that Google uses is what you're building your website around. But that's something that we have to keep it. You can at least try to chase, even though that's an algorithm that is not transparent. Anybody that says they know the total secrets or not, because that's something you're chasing with Google. But anyway.
And they're constantly changing it, so it's a moving target. But I know that went far afield from what you asked. And I had been meaning to ask Amanda this too. Amanda, we did a little experiment with that Bird Eye app. The last 3 months seemed like 3 years to me. I don't even remember when we started. Has it been a year now or something like that?
I think it's coming up close to a year, if not.
Do you have an opinion on it one way or the other?
When we get a Google review, Bird Eye posts that on Facebook. It posts the review automatically. Mm-hmm. And so, but to be honest with you though, we did a big push for 5-star reviews in February, February. And I didn't see that was actually popping up on the social media.
Yeah.
We ended up with quite a few. And, I saw 1 or 2, but I feel like now that you mention it, I really should have seen, about every day that popping up, and it didn't. So I'm not sure exactly.
So you're about as lukewarm on it as I am.
If it had posted automatically every time that we got a 5-star review, I would have had for the month of January and February, probably would have had one every other day.
Yeah.
And now that you mentioned, I don't remember seeing that.
And for everybody's, what Bird Eye is it's one of the companies that are purported to raise your reviews. And what they have is an app where it can text your clients and ask them to do a review, but it brings them through a process where it kind of sorts them out. And if they're pissy, it tries not to get them to go put it on Google. And if they're happy, it tries to get them to put it on Google. It's not very aggressive about it because according to them, then Google slaps them and doesn't post them. What it does do is if you go, for instance, Google Amanda School, one of the very early listings will be the Bird's Eye app with all of the 4- and 5-star ratings, right? So, and that's useful, by the way. So that's not nothing. But then set up properly is it pulls new ratings from Google and posts them out to social media, whatever you set it up to post. And then you can put it embedded in your website. So you can embed it in your website. So all new 4- and 5-star reviews show up in this that looks as like a independent verification system in your website. And, I came across it and thought, well, it seems like a good idea. And basically used it for the 2 Mile High schools for Martial Arts Wealth ourselves. And Amanda and somebody else, I forget who else. We just tried it out with a handful of people, wanting to see if we were get wowed or not. I guess my assessment still is the best way to get lots of 5-star reviews is to do the enrollment notebook, do the progress check early on as a prep for the renewal conference, and incorporate the script into the progress update. As soon as they've told you that they're loving it and their child loves it and everything's great, Oh, by the way, Ms. Smith, have you had a chance to do a review for us on Google? We really appreciate that. No? Okay. If you don't mind, can I text you the link right now and have you do that for us? Oh, and by the way, have you done one on Facebook? Here, let me text you the link to our Facebook page and have you do it. So really doing it right then and there by texting it over their cell phone and having them do it. We've had schools get 100 reviews in a couple of months doing that. And, no amount of posting in your group and emailing people and, all of that gets anywhere near that kind of response of just incorporating it as a normal routine in the, the test process or in the progress update. But progress update, especially because if they've been with you for, 4 to 6 weeks and they're really excited, that's the prime time to get them to go do a review. And you don't get them to do a review by asking them to go home and do a review. You get them to do a review by you're sitting there in the office and you text them the link and have them do it right then and there. And almost everybody's happy to do it.
And doing it before you ask them to pay and enroll and renew is a positive renewal step.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't, I think some people get that backwards. If they renew and they join leadership, then I would then get them to, it's better to do it before that, and then that makes them more likely to join leadership if they just did the review.
Oh yeah, it's classic Cialdini influence, right? Is those little steps. He tells a story and influence of, getting them to wear the badge in support of the thing makes them like 90% more likely to put the lawn sign in, and putting the lawn sign in makes them 90% more likely to volunteer to shepherd the kids around for a day or something like that. I mean, it's those small little commitments and that they make all the difference in the world.
So I just Googled us and it shows 67 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
And then you have the underneath that your Facebook reviews on there, which was 97, and then the Bird Eye, which is 216, 5-star. So how do people see those reviews? The Bird Eye, do they need to click on that to see it? Because I think, or how do I share that?
Well, what was the Facebook reviews?
97.
And the Google?
67. And then the Bird Eye says 216.
So there's 60 more in Bird Eye than the combined total of Facebook and
right.
Google. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that means that person didn't follow through and complete the review in Google and Facebook.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So, which is typical of those kind of systems, is the system brings them to the A, and your website has that too, Amanda, by the way, is they can do a review on your website. You can drive them to your website to do that. And then the process would be to say, thank you for your 5-star review, and then send them the links to those other pages. You can do that from your website as well.
Yeah.
You have the capability of doing that right from there, which may be one less, speculatively, that's one less step than sending them to a separate app to have them do that. Although that app automates it. So that's why you would do that way. But
well, and to answer her question, what Go to Karate could do is they could embed the Bird's Eye link in the website. So then it pulls up independent third-party reviews within the website, in addition to everybody who's done reviews on the website in addition, right? And the way they see those reviews is when they Google you, they click on the Bird's Eye link, or you embed it also in the website, right, for them to review. And if it was me, if you've got somebody in front of you, I would just have them go do the review through your website or do the review directly with Google, and I wouldn't send them through, the Bird's Eye process. The Bird Eye process is more text or email everybody, and then it tries to weed out, the ones that aren't enthusiastic and keep those from going online. That's what really is trying to accomplish. Okay. So if you're a restaurant, that makes a lot of sense for us. If you broadcast it out to everybody, it makes some sense. If it's just going to, if you're just talking to somebody and they say they love you, there's no reason to go through an extra step.
Yeah, and I think what he's saying too is think about the numbers. With a restaurant, there's 1,000 people going to the restaurant in a month, or 2,000 people in a restaurant a month, and it's different people. So you're churning a lot of people. Whereas with our school, it might be 200-300 people total, and it's the same 200 or 300 people, for the most part over a long period of time. So we got to get all of those people to do something. Whereas a restaurant, you can't individually go to, hey, walk them through the review system every time they come to the table. So you've got to send something like Bird's Eye out to everybody, hopefully, and then it's a numbers game. The numbers are going to be different. So it's a numbers situation. So that kind of app works better for that. So I think for us, the best thing is what Master Oliver just said, is if you make them do it as part of the renewal process, that was a huge step to get them to renew.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best reason for that of any of it. I mean, the online marketing stuff is great too, but to make them renew, if they fill out a review, a 5-star review for you in front of you, sitting in front of your face, and then you say, okay, give me money, that's kind of all you got to do.
Yeah, probably at a later date, but absolutely.
I know, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know I do. I just clarify. But you're absolutely right. It's why each of those little commitments, put them one further step, and all of the behavioral psychology supports that. It's, cognitive dissonance theory. If I say it's great, it's great, it's great, it's great, it's great. And then but the best book, if anybody hasn't read it, is Cialdini, Influence, Science, and Practice. It's the most reputable, well-researched, well-written on the science of persuasion, if you haven't read it. Adam, did we answer any and all questions that you have? Again, I would recommend talk to Kate at Elite Digital. It's up in the Facebook group.
Yeah,
I
Bob
think you'll
messaged me her number, so
Yeah.
we'll get on that.
I think you'll find them handling it for you. They'll zip up your conversion, your lead numbers, and their expense is going to be really low relative to the amount of time you're putting into it.
Understood. Thank you.
Plus, we're getting now the experience of their handling, 25 of our schools or something like that. So they're getting that growth curve pretty dramatically as well.
If I can,
and I'm meeting with them every week as well to tweak the offers and the processes. Amanda will tell you, when we launched with them, we spent, what was it, Amanda, like 90 days really making sure they were up to speed.
Yeah, I just checked. We did have 66 leads from them this month.
This month, yeah. And your conversion rate has been really good now.
We're doing much better, much better.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
thanks for the help.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so if there isn't anything else, we'll call it a day until, you guys are welcome to attend the quick start. To a great extent, I'm going to, continue to reinforce. We had a conversation yesterday with one of our members who's in British Columbia, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, you don't understand. It's as bad here as in New York City," and it was, it was like Colorado. The kids are going back to school next week, and they're going to be physically in school for 3 days a week for the next couple weeks, and a whole bunch of stuff is open, and they're allowed to open with social distancing, and according to him, nobody's wearing masks, and they make fun of people wearing them. I'm like, well, this isn't New York City. New York City is getting pretty close to build the wall and put people with machine guns to keep everybody in. Is that a fair statement, Paul? I mean, Manhattan, and they certainly have a deficit of leadership. Giuliani or Bloomberg would have led them through this much easier than the moron they have now. Unfortunately, you get the leadership you deserve. That is the problem. Okay.
If I can take
go right in.
Go ahead, Matt, if you want to go first.
It's just about a Ring Central thing that I need to follow up with.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
A 30-second story that was of a success that could help your staff. Just before we closed, before the pandemic hit, we hired a guy named Greg. No martial arts experience, but we hired him as a program director because he seemed like a go-getter. He worked in political stuff prior, so he knew how to do legwork.
Good.
And when we first started our virtual stuff recently, he was the first person to do an intro. Now, mind you, he's a white belt, but he taught an intro nonetheless, and he just didn't know any better than what he already knows, and he just signed him right up. barely knows how to throw a punch himself. But the guy said, I want to do the intro. He took them all the way through it, signed them up. They enrolled full price on our program, full commitment. So it was a really nice, it's a good story it's the mindset. I don't care what kind of martial artist you are. He's a sales guy in his heart. And he was like, no, I'm going to sign these people up because I want us to grow. Doesn't matter that he's a white belt and brand new in our company. So if there's any people in your organization, that's a good story to tell, I felt.
It really is. And you're right. I mean, mindset is 90% of it. You know, Master Smith, we were both on a meeting yesterday and he left. And I was like, thanks for abandoning me with this. But it was just, you know, I mean, it's hard to get to me, but it was a 30-minute energy suck, you know, with somebody telling me how bad it was and how everybody's thinking this way. And, you know, and
I couldn't take any more of that negativity. I lasted about 25 minutes and
I stayed on. I sucked it up, but anyway.
Yeah.
I never heard so much negative stuff. I mean, like he came up with every negative thing you could think of, and I'm going like, man, how can you even? And that was with you interjecting the positive, and then he would still come back with the negative.
Yeah, and finally, I just got tired of him. I said, you know, you have. I was in a really good mood until I talked to you. I went and got on the motorcycle and then screw this. You know, I did.
I had to go put the top down and go for a ride. I said, "Oh my gosh, I got all my negative energy that I needed for the week."
I will tell you, I can't take my motorcycle to the BMW dealership without spending a minimum $1,700. You know,
that's why I have a Tesla now.
I swear to God, every time I take it for an oil change, I end up with, you know, a $1,700 bill.
Way you go, Yamaha.
Yeah, there you go.
But anyway, I mean, that is a good story, and it's a good point, and it's what everybody should be thinking of, is that the leadership that Paul started the conversation about is you guys showing leadership downstream, us showing leadership with our students and everything. It makes a big difference. It's not a cliche. It'll change their lives much further down when all the coronavirus crap is over.
Yeah, dramatically. On that note, thanks, guys.
Matt, get his Ring Central thing in.
Oh,
yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
I talked to the president of sales. He's getting a team together to talk with everybody on how to implement Ring Central and their whole suite of applications. So I'll need to get with you to basically put you in contact with them.
We'll get it.
Awesome.
That'll be great. I think that'll help everybody.
Frankly, would that be a better quick start topic or a Tuesday topic, Master Smith?
I think
it might be a better Tuesday topic. The quick start guys might get distracted by the technology.
How about this? Any Tuesday at 2 Eastern, noon Mountain, that they want to do it, we'll give them the hour.
I did tell them that it would probably go to our entire group, so that's one reason why they want to jump on it too. So
yeah. Usually it's more manageable to do a Tuesday meeting, and then we'll put the recording out for everybody.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Rather than having
that might be better, because then the questions will come from the higher level guys, and it'll be more controlled, and then the other guys can see it too.
Yeah.
And then we can always do a follow-up on a Thursday call with everybody who saw it, who needed some extra guidance.
Yeah, but that'd be great, man. I absolutely appreciate it. And it is a wonderful resource. We've only scratched the surface on what it'll do. But it is a very useful resource if used properly.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thanks, man.
Okay, guys.
Hey, guys.
Bye.
See you later.
Back at 2.
Thanks, everyone.